Here's Ben Shapiro to be wrong about Elliot Page and transgender people in general.
Okay, now, I would be remiss today if I did not discuss one of the great issues of our time, and that is that the actress Ellen Page, who is, was, and shall remain a woman, is now a man.
What do you even think men and women are, Ben?
So let me read you the headline from CNN, which conveys zero information. Right, we have now been forced as a society to simply say nonsense, to simply just say things that are nonsense, that don't make any sort of logical sense, that don't actually translate from English to reason. Okay, so here is the headline, and you tell me if you know what the hell this means. Okay, ready? Elliot Page, Juno star, shares transgender identity. Do you have any idea what that means?
Yeah, it means he's coming out of the closet about being transgender. Why do you think this is so complicated?
Like, seriously, do you have any idea what that means? When I first saw the headline Elliot Page, I thought, whoa, Ellen has a brother? No, it turns out that Ellen Page is now identifying as Elliot Page. And the media, instead of saying, here's a headline with content, Ellen Page announces she identifies as man, wishes to be called Elliot Page.
Well, it's widely understood, at least to folks who care enough to pay attention, that it is very unkind to mention a transgender person's dead name. The fact that they mention that he's the star of Juno, the movie for which he is most famous, should be clear enough to identify who he is, especially considering the fact that most of the articles about Elliot include his picture.
Right, now I would have the whole story. But Elliot Page, Juno star, conveys nothing because Ellen Page was the star of Juno. So I'm like, wait, was her brother in that movie? Like, I don't even know what you're talking about right now. Because the media have created this bizarre standard whereby if a person declares themselves a member of the opposite gender, the entire world, especially in the media, must immediately flip on a dime, stop calling them by the name everybody knew them as, and stop calling them by their biological sex.
Well, nobody gets called by their reproductive system. The pronouns people use refer to their gender, which does not always correlate to any particular reproductive physiology.
You end up with complete nonsense, just complete bleh, coming out of the mouths of the media.
If that were the case, nobody would be able to understand what such headlines meant. Even Ben figured it out eventually. Now he's just pretending not to be able to put two and two together.
Now listen, Ellen Page can identify however she wants. I don't care. Really, it makes no difference to me. She is an adult human. She can do whatever she wants. It is a free country.
Well, apparently you don't believe he can expect the basic courtesy of not being misgendered.
However, it being a free country, I am also free to point out that Ellen Page is, was, and shall remain a woman.
Sure, you're free to be both wrong and a bigot. That is what you do for a living.
Because Ellen Page is in fact a woman. Now, I'm happy to call Ellen Page Elliot if she wants to be called Elliot, because people change their names all the time, and you can in fact change your name by declaration. You cannot, however, change your sex by declaration.
I haven't seen any mention anywhere of Elliot claiming to have changed his sex. He just said that he is trans, not that he recently became trans. And gender and reproductive biology are not the same thing. I know Ben likes to think they always have to correlate, but they don't. Sometimes some parts of a person's reproductive biology don't even always correlate to other parts of that same person's biology. A person can be born with one set of reproductive anatomy, but at puberty develop characteristics more common to people born with a different set of anatomy. If some aspects of a person's biology don't always correlate to other aspects of that same person's biology, why would their gender always have to correlate with their biology?
Or your gender by declaration. That is not how this works. There is no other area of life in which people simply declare themselves to be a thing, and everybody goes, oh, okay.
Again, I don't think Elliot is even claiming to have changed his gender. Rather, it seems from the statement he posted on Instagram that he is simply now embracing who he has always been. But even if he were changing his gender, why can't you change your gender? What law of physics does that break? And it's obviously not true that there are no other aspects of your identity that people will usually just accept without question. Any identity having to do with an individual's subjective experience, which is what gender identity is, can ultimately only be known to that person, so it's silly for someone else to assert that they know differently.
Right, an objectively verifiable thing.
Gender identity is not an objectively verifiable thing. It is an aspect of a person's self-concept.
Right there, you can declare your sexual orientation, right? You can declare a thing that you like. You can declare that you're a fan of this particular band. You can declare that you have a sexual attraction to X, Y, or Z, right? That's all subjective. And all we have to go on is your behavior, which is objective, and your subjective self-assessment. However, when you're declaring something as core as your sex, there's no objective measure whatsoever whereby Ellen Page is a man. None.
You don't know what a man is if you think it is some kind of biological category. And also, Elliot just said he was trans. He didn't specify that he was a man.
Right, she is a woman. And yet we are immediately told by the media that to even address Ellen Page or Elliot Page as a she is discriminatory.
Well, yeah. If you use a person's reproductive physiology as a basis for denying their status as a member of one or another gender, you are discriminating against them on an arbitrary basis.
It's very bad and very discriminatory. And so you end up with complete inanities and insanities. Okay, so Ellen Page declared that she is now a man. Okay? But she also declared that she is a queer man. Now, this is confusing because if she were a queer man, this would mean that she is attracted to men, which would technically mean that she's a straight woman.
Okay, so I guess Ben doesn't know what queer means either. It doesn't necessarily mean attracted to someone of the same gender. It's a very broad term that is applied to many different gender identities and orientations. And again, Elliot didn't say he is a man. We just know that he's not a woman. I suspect that this is what he means by queer. He may simply be non-binary, and before that term was used, non-binary folks referred to themselves as genderqueer. Many still apply that term.
Right? Because if she is an actual woman attracted to men, this would make her a straight woman. But we know she's not that because she was a lesbian, right? So she is married to a woman, as far as I'm aware, and that means that she is a lesbian. But now she is a man, and according to her, this means that she is a white, straight male. So how's she queer? She's a white, straight male.
Well, again, some folks identify as queer simply because they are not cisgender, regardless of their orientation.
So here is how Wikipedia tries to sum this up. You ready for this? According to Wikipedia, in January 2018, Page publicly announced his marriage to dancer and choreographer Emma Portner. So this means that Ellen Page is a gay man married to a woman, according to Wikipedia.
A queer person married to a woman, not a gay man. Those aren't the same thing, Ben.
Which makes no sense at all, like in any way, shape, or form. And you're expected to simply mirror this. Not only that, the left has particular standards with regard to who gets to play parts in movies. So, for example, Ellen Page, now Elliot Page. Right? I'm saying Ellen Page not because I wish to offend Elliot Page, but because until 5 seconds ago, nobody had ever heard of Elliot Page, so nobody knows who the hell I'm talking about. So I'm going to use the name that people know her as. And then, over time, if you want to call it Elliot Page, that's fine. But for like today.
You just explained at the beginning of the video who Elliot Page is, so you have no excuse to continue using his dead name.
I feel like it's fair to mention that Ellen Page and Elliot Page are the same person, so that if somebody tunes in and hears Elliot Page, they don't think Ellen has a brother, okay? So, here's the headline from TV Insider. Elliot Page reportedly to continue in same role on Umbrella Academy. Now, Umbrella Academy on Netflix, it started off, the series itself is based on a comic book. In the comic book, Ellen Page, who, again, is a woman, and is in the series a cisgender woman, right? Like a woman who is a woman, is a straight woman in the first season. In the second season, Ellen Page becomes a lesbian because Ellen Page is a lesbian in real life, I guess. I assume that's what the plan was there, and that it has something to do with how Ellen Page wanted to act, because my understanding is that's not something directly from the comic book series. If it is, forgive me, that's fine. Who cares? Okay, but here's the part that's hilarious. So according to Variety, they say there are no plans to change the character Ellen Page plays, her gender, on the Umbrella Academy. So the series is publicly showing their support, and they say they are proud of their superhero. We love you, Elliot, but Elliot will be playing a woman. Now, I've been firmly informed that this is discrimination and cultural appropriation.
What culture is being appropriated, Ben? White women culture? Men playing female characters is not something that has ever been very controversial, so it's not analogous to a white person playing a character who is a person of color. But even if it were, given that the circumstances that Elliot seems to only recently be coming to terms with his identity, some leeway is appropriate.
When Scarlett Johansson, a straight woman, was slated to play a transgender man in a movie, this was considered very, very bad form. In fact, only trans people could play trans characters.
Yeah, but one of the reasons for that is that it's hard for transgender actors to find roles, so we want to keep transgender roles open for them. There is no shortage of cisgender roles, so nobody has to worry about cisgender actors being crowded out by trans people.
So I have a question. If Elliot Page is in fact a man, the way that the media have declared that she is a man, then why is she allowed to play a cisgender woman? Is that not cultural appropriation?
I didn't realize cisgender women were a culture.
If a normal, non-trans man decided to play a woman today, everybody would suggest that this was a violation of long-standing norms. It was cultural appropriation.
No, they wouldn't. Perhaps you can find some folks who question whether it's appropriate for men to play women characters, but it's still occasionally the case that women characters are played by men, and I've never heard of anyone getting canceled over it. If Dan Mintz has been canceled for doing the voice of Tina on Bob's Burgers, it hasn't been very consequential.
But if a woman declares herself a man, then you have to make a choice. Either she is a man, in which case she can't play a woman anymore, or she is not a man, in which case she's not a man. But because our culture is unbelievably stupid, it is both. Right? That is the way that this works. So good news, Elliot Page can still play women and also can play transgender men, presumably can also play men, which is really exciting.
I hope that's the case. I would love to see cisgender men, or as Ben calls them, men, characters be opened up to transgender actors.
One further note on all of this. If you feel like this is crazy and that this is being crammed down on you, that is because it is. That is because this is not a fringe phenomenon anymore.
What if I'm not a bigot and this doesn't sound crazy to me? What if the reason it's not a fringe phenomenon anymore is for the same reason that heliocentrism is not a fringe idea anymore? What if it's because people are finally facing reality and old ideas about gender are being revealed to be obsolete, as is commonly the case with old ideas? To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.